Hello and welcome to Beyond Words Presents. Today we are here with author, healer, and scientist Joyce Hawkes. Her book, Cell Level Healing, has sold like crazy, and I'm so excited to be here with you, Dr. Hawkes.
Thank you. What fun. I'm delighted too.
Great. And I just want to make sure everybody out there knows that they can participate in the conversation. If you have questions or comments, please use the hashtag BWPresents, and you can also submit questions through the Google Hangouts app. And please be sure to like us on YouTube so that you can be sure to see all of our upcoming shows. So, Dr. Hawkes, the first thing that I'm super curious about is, in your book, you talk about your near-death experience and the fact that that was kind of a pivotal point in your life. And so I was just wondering if you'd be willing to describe that experience and how it affected you and what change it made for you in your life. That's kind of a lot.
Thank you. I'd be delighted. I was a very dedicated scientist and loving my work. Biology lit me up by the time I was in high school, and I had finished a doctorate in biophysics. I'd finished a postdoctoral fellowship with National Institutes of Health and was enjoying tremendously the work of looking through electron microscopes at the secrets of cells. I mean, here's this thing that weighs a ton, and it works under a huge amount of electrical force, essentially, to create an image. But you got to look inside of cells and understand what was going on with them. We're working on toxins and how they affected fish and lots of things. It was going really great. It was kind of at the height of my career. And I was home cleaning house, which wasn't a real regular kind of thing, but you know, I had a big leaded glass window. The thing was 3 feet long, very heavy, on the mantle. It had never budged. And I'm vacuuming right in front of the fireplace and the mantle. I did not bump the mantle. But that thing fell off and hit me on the head for really no apparent reason. I had never heard of near-death experiences. This was in the late 76. Ray Moody's first book was out, but I hadn't read it. If I had, I would have gone, oh, what bunk. Oh, my gosh, how could people have done that? I was, not open to anything very spiritual. So all of a sudden, as I'm collapsing down on the floor and my head hurts, there's a tunnel in front of me. It's long and dark, and I experience speeding down this tunnel, moving toward light at the end that's drawing me. I was like, whoa. At the entrance to the tunnel, to the right, my mother and grandmother were there. Now, these two women had been very close to me. They had both died, and I missed them a lot, but I didn't believe in an afterlife. And so to see them was astonishing. And they could communicate their care and love to me, and they didn't look old and sick. They looked really sort of, middle age, maybe 40, maybe in the late 30s, and very healthy. I was like, wow, I could have stayed there forever, frankly. And then all of a sudden, bingo, everything happened like snap, snap, snap. I was in this beautiful place with rolling hills, sky, grass, flowers, and the color was exquisite. I still, when I think about it inside my head, kind of can see it. It was as if the grass, the green of the grass, was a laser color, totally clear but not harsh. And the feeling, the emotions of the place was total peace. Your mind doesn't go anywhere except right where you are at the moment. And had no desire to do anything else or go anywhere else. It's just stunning. Then, boom, bingo, I'm in the presence of a being of light. All white and there it seemed like quite a long time. I didn't have a life review as many near-death experiencers do. I didn't have a discussion or argument about coming back or not coming back. I was just there. And that quality of being loved, of peace, of a sense of inner joy that just filled my consciousness hasn't ever completely left. I'm very grateful for that.
Mm.
And the desire to think about something or go somewhere or do something else just was not there. So, bingo, all of a sudden I'm back on the floor, picking myself up. I put my hand on top of my head, and the blood is dry all over the top of my head. I had quite a cut, and, you know, head wounds bleed like crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't soppy. It was dry, which meant I was out a long time. Probably at least an hour and a half, maybe longer. We've never figured that out. And I did have a head injury that, you know, a doctor saw eventually. I didn't need any surgery or anything, but I was flat on my back for a while. And I was a runner, a mountain climber, a skier, a very active young woman, and running the lab at this point. So to sit and have to hang out with myself was really tough. But it did not, and I just discounted everything initially. I was like, oh yeah, well, that was weird. But as I was recovering, I was at a bookstore in Seattle, Third Place Books, and looking around on the shelves, and Ray Moody's book, Life After Life, just jumped out. And I went, whoa, that looks interesting. And I opened it up, and here's case history after case history of people who've had similar experiences. And the scientist in me said, whoa, if it's repeatable, there's a good chance it's real. And I stood in the bookstore and read practically the whole book. I did buy it and take it home. And so it started me thinking about what I had experienced and talking to people and finding a near-death experiencer group in Seattle and talk to some more people. So it was very pivotal in changing my mind, well, certainly the experience changed my consciousness, but also changing how I thought about the world and experience and spirituality. And I began seeking, reading everything I could, trying to find out from people what they understood and knew, still running the lab. And it took me 7 years before I changed careers. So the healing didn't come up immediately. There was a circumstance where I had a direct visionary call to healing. And it was so intense, it was as intense as the near-death experience, and I did resign my position at the lab the next business day. It took me a couple months to train somebody to take over the lab, but I left. I just jumped out into the abyss.
So as you were grappling with your near-death experience and still working at the lab, did you start to see connections between that experience and then the work that you were doing?
That's a great question, Whitney, and the answer is absolutely not. I saw no connection. It was like two different worlds. And so when I left the lab, I just dumped science. And what I said to myself was, why did I do all that hard work, go to graduate school and postdoc and write almost 40 papers and travel around and give talks, if my thing was to do this healing stuff? Why did I do after? Okay? So it was not until I was working with a master healer in Bali, a person I worked with for 10 years, going back and forth from Seattle to there. She was an incredible healer, trans-medium, shaman. Learned so much from her in those 10 years. But in one of the trips there, in deep meditation, all of a sudden, I got it. I saw how part of my opportunity in my culture here in the States was to actually combine science and spirituality. But those years before, I just dumped all the science. I just went, okay, let's just talk about energy. So now I still keep up with science. I read the journal Science. I'm a fellow in the American Association for Advancement of Science based on research I did. And I delight in seeing how the connection happens when we're doing healing work. The deeper we understand how the body works, the more we appreciate its wisdom, its magnificence. And the more we can be with that vehicle for our consciousness and understand it, for me, the better the energy work goes, the healing work, the focus of, let's see how we can help each other by touch or by prayer or by sending healing, however you describe it.
Well, and it's interesting because it almost seems like you had to have that period of completely getting rid of science and just focusing on the spirituality in order to dig deep into that aspect of who you are and what you felt really connected for you in order to have this combination of the spirituality and the science. And I know that there's a lot of people out there where we, switch jobs or we, somehow change our life circumstances and we do exactly what you said. We look back at what we did and are like, oh my goodness, why did I do that for so long? So being able to see how you could look back and take those different pieces that at the time didn't make sense and put them together and create something that's really profound is really inspiring.
Thank you. Yeah, it's an interesting journey, isn't it? And very many people do find that when their life and career changes dramatically, that there's threads of everything they did or studied or read or experienced before that come into a new awareness. They're helpful, they're supportive. It's not like, oh, it was wrong and I shouldn't have done that. It's just looking back at, okay, what are those threads? How do they support where I am now? And I really encourage each person to look at their history wherever they are in their life and appreciate the path, the journey, the changes, and honor themselves for what it takes to make some of those major changes. And if you're at a point where you're teetering on the edge of making one, it really is like jumping off into an abyss sometimes, like, whoa, am I going to fly or fall?
Well, and I'm curious, and I don't know if that connects at all, but in terms of how does that manifest in our cells? Like even those moments when we're not sure or we're not being so positive and encouraging with ourselves, how does that manifest in our bodies at the level that you deal with?
That often, I think, manifests as stress. And it's the stress of concern and worry and, oh, am I doing the right thing? And that sends a flood of biochemistry into our body from our adrenals and from some other places. But the molecules that flood us with that sort of stressful worry take up to 3 days for our body to metabolize. So once we hit one of those peak moments of stress, it stays with us. It doesn't just, okay, I'm not stressed now, everything's fine. The body's going, yo, would you quit doing that? And for people who are in positions either in their home or at their work, or if they've become a person who worries a lot, sometimes they never get out of that biochemistry of stress because there's another one before what that one caused all that biochemistry to be. So any way that we can learn to walk our talk, to live our life, to find modes of being at peace in ourselves is incredibly healthy to the body. The science that shows what stress does is astonishing. It shuts down part of our digestive system, and so it inhibits the absorption of nutrients. It very much mucks with our immune system, so we're much more prone to infection or illness. And the biggest thing of all, stress biochemistry kills brain cells. Now, I like to keep as many of these guys in here as I can. So,
yes.
You know, that's kind of a bit of a, all right, let's learn not to be so stressed.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I didn't know that it killed brain cells. That's a little shocking and definitely makes me rethink the things that I stress out about. And to some extent,
but there is an antidote, because what does build brain cells and allows and supports actually neurogenesis, the formation of new brain cells, is meditation. is number one on top of it. Number two is exercise. There's a few other things on the list, not a whole lot. But I was astonished when that research came out, primarily from University of Wisconsin, that meditation creates new brain cells, so it keeps our brains young.
Huh. And you, one of the things that we do have as a part of your package today, of course, we have your book, and then we also have this great CD that you have that's Resonance, nine meditation practices for harmonious health and vitality. I'll hold it up here so you can actually see it. So will this help you grow brain cells?
I guarantee it. Listen to the meditations and you will have 10 to the 5th more brain cells. Hopefully. I mean, the evidence is that meditation does help. And the little CD has 9 practices. They're paired. Sensitivity and joy, connection and protection. There are a bunch of titles. And each of those dropped in for me when I was meditating. I didn't plan to actually do that, but I would be meditating and down, shoo, would come. And then there's original music on there by Helen Folsom. So we trust that it will be helpful to people and lead them through a series of different ways of approaching both meditation, finding something that works. There's so much out there about you have to do it a certain way, you have to sit a certain way, and that's nice, and especially when you're young, that's really nice. But sometimes our bodies aren't as comfortable doing that. You can still meditate lying down. You can meditate walking. You can meditate in 3 minutes. If it's juicy 3 minutes of connection, it's worth 20 minutes of fidgeting and going, oh, when is it going to be over and I can get up again? So one of the things I encourage people is that there's a broad definition of meditation. And it's mostly making a connection deep inside of yourself and then expanding that to however you name it, the universe. But it's full of healing energy, number one, and obviously really good for our bodies.
Absolutely. So just so everyone knows, we do have that great package, which is Dr. Hawkes' great book, Cell Level Healing, and then also the the CD Resonance, as well as a free audio download of a meditation practice that you have led as well. So all of that all together for over 30% off. So it's a total of, I believe, $29.95. So go to www.beyondword.com/Hawkes, HAWKES, to get that. And then you'll be able to start right away with that free download. So thank you so much for offering that, Dr. Hawkes, because I know that a lot of us, as soon as you say meditation, for me, I'm like, I have that exact image, sitting on a cushion, straight up, saying Om, trying to connect with your breath. And I sometimes use it to try and get myself to fall asleep at night, but I've never successfully meditated.
Wonderful. Well, I hope this helps because I started that way. I've been now 30 plus years doing the healing work, teaching it, both in the States and Canada and in Britain, and also practicing myself and paying attention to the days when my mind would be busy and going, it is not a good idea to keep sitting here twitching around when I don't want to be here. That just loses the point. It does not supply what we're looking for. And so if I sit in the morning and my mind is busy, I'll go pick up my paper and start writing my list and then come back to it another time. But the times when you do get to a place that connection happens, it's often I get shivers in my body, kind of running down my spine. It is so ecstatic. And
so when you say, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I thought maybe I'd be happy to lead a little short meditation anytime it fits.
That would be great. Would you? I would love it. Would you do that now?
I'd be delighted.
Great.
So I encourage everybody to just be comfortable. Move in a place where you're comfortable. Put your head where it feels good. Leave your eyes open or close them. Doesn't matter. Imagine putting your hand on your heart or doing it physically and just saying, "Yo, Joyce, I love you." Use your own name. Whitney, I love you. Whoever's out there. Say it to yourself for a moment. And I honor you. And breathing's good. A nice simple breath where you just kind of fill your lungs. Let the air out. Now this is a very specific and guided meditation. So what I encourage you to do is to say to yourself, anything I no longer need, I allow it to dissolve and just flow away. Anything no longer useful to me, whew, letting it dissolve, flow away. And then I embrace that which gives me vitality and joy. I embrace the highest good for myself. And then take a moment just to be in the silence. And let yourself come back. And we'll do another one later. I've got several ideas, things that and that's one I do myself. You know, when you find a tendency that doesn't work, you go, what am I going to do with that thing? Well, let it dissolve and go away.
Yeah, let it dissolve and go away. And I love what you said in terms of embrace things that bring me joy. We have a tendency as just people out there in the world to embrace the things that we're frustrated with or angry with, and we just hold on to them and just get angrier and angrier, and letting those dissolve because they don't make us happy. And embracing the things that bring us joy really is, what's going to make a difference for us in our lives.
And tagging back to what we talked about a few minutes ago, that inner tendency, which we all have, to fuss about it and become angry with it and try and make plans about it. That's what our body does with that, is create all the biochemistry of stress. And so finding a way to let it go quickly and to actually embrace what helps means you're shutting down the flow of the molecules are called catecholamines. Shuts down the flow of that stuff so that you're not just pumping it through the body. And it's so easy to sit and fuss a lot, isn't it? It's just
it's so easy. And it's so easy to sit and fuss with other people too, like tell other people about what you're dealing with and then bring them in so that you can all fuss together.
All fuss together. Let's have a fuss group. That's great. Fuss. That's good. So here's a thing you can use. Anything. I don't need this. Let it dissolve, flow away. And so part of that is almost it's an image of bringing the flow of universal energy through the body from the top down so that you have a support along with the idea.
I love that. You're not dealing with anything alone. You have that universal support with you wherever you go and whatever you're dealing with.
Yeah.
And I had a question too from something you said earlier when you're talking about your healing work. What do you mean by that? What is that work?
That's developed a lot over these 30 years of practice. And so what it's like now, people book for an hour session. either in my office or via phone or Skype. I have worked with people all over the world. And we talk for the first 5-10 minutes so that I can make a link and connection with them and also understand what they're dealing with and what they want out of the session. Then we hang up the phone, or if the person's in the office, they hop up on the treatment table. And we may talk a little bit, but it's mostly, obviously we're hanging up the phone, we're not talking. But it's then going into a deep state of quiet. And what I do is have the experience of sending healing to them. Now, I've been tested with electroencephalogram, with EEGs. I've been tested with people right in front of me and with people 1,000 and 7,000 miles away in India. Wow. And those people receiving healing have been tested. And what we know is at least the brain waves change dramatically during that time in both the recipient and also in the person sending. And so the brain, the busy beta wave brain, is there. It's clear. We're not sleepy during doing this work. But then the alpha, which is the sense of well-being, starts rising. And theta, which is there when we're visualizing, sometimes expands. But the most profound expansion or change in brain function is in the delta waves. These are the slowest waves in the brain, actually usually only seen in deep unconscious or not even subconscious, but unconscious sleep. There's been testing of Tibetan monks who've meditated thousands of hours, and they run beta and delta simultaneously. So do I, in all these years of training. And what happens is the experience is one of compassion, of my heart opening as I'm sending. And it's an interesting dance between the science of, say somebody has arthritis. What's the science of that? I'll mention that in a minute. And what's the spirit of it? So I connect with that person in their own spiritual tradition, not trying to impose one on them. And then as I kind of move back and forth from just the energy of sending to the science of it, the first thing I'm doing is pulling inflammation out. That arthritic joint is hot, it's inflamed. And somehow or other, that's one of the gifts I seem to have. It's almost like a shamanic extraction of pulling the inflammation out. And then there are cells in the body. Once that's out, that can actually smooth all the crunchy calcium deposits that are on an arthritic joint. So there are osteoclasts and osteoblasts. The osteoclasts actually eat the little spiky things. The osteoblasts smooth the area with a little bit of new calcium phosphate. And also I remove then the extra fluid. What happens in something like arthritis is where it's inflamed, then a small amount of water is trapped there. And when that water, bit of edema, is trapped there down in around the cells, it prevents nutrients getting to the cells. It also keeps pinching on nerves, and that's part of where all the pain is. So there's a multi-step process. It isn't just, okay, arthritis, go away. And that's been the gift of cell-level healing, is that we can understand some of the cell workings and, in a sense, the target we're working with, but we're also dancing back and forth with the pure energy of the work, with the sense, emotions of compassion. And then, at the same time, when we were doing EEG stuff, we could see that the healer's brain function is changing, and the person receiving the brain, no matter how far away they are, instantaneously receives it. It astonishes me still. You know, I had a woman.
Is incredible.
Isn't it? There's a dear woman in Australia who read Cell Level Healing and called me. She's from Poland originally. She's a university professor in Australia. She was visiting her mother in Warsaw, Poland. And so she had set up a phone session, and we talked, and she said, Mama's got such bad neuropathy in her feet. She can't walk, and she's in terrible pain. So I said, okay. And I couldn't even talk to her mother because they really don't know any Polish, and her mother did not speak any English. So we agreed. Mama said, yeah, okay, fine. So we hang up the phone. I start sending to her. You know, many times I can feel in my own body what's happening to people, and I'm unafraid to take that in because I just turn it up to the light. So the real protection there is the connection with spirit. We'll talk more about that a little bit later. But so I did our work, and each person's different. There's not a standard ABC that I've found. Each person's different, and so part of this work is listening, asking for guidance, spiritually, listening, and then responding. So then when I called her back, she said, well, Mom feels a little bit better. I said, great, give it some biological time. Let the body take in the healing, do what it can do. She writes me the next day. By that night, all the pain was gone from her mother's feet. And they took off that next day and walked all over Warsaw together. Now, her mother's feet have never flared again as badly as they were. It goes up and down a little bit, and I usually get a phone call or an email when it is. Help, do some more. But how do you explain that? I'm so grateful that things like that can happen for people. Not 100%, not everybody gets that spectacular event, but quite a few people do. And so part of my deep guidance right now, and especially connecting with wonderful beyond words people again, is the next book. There's more to say about this.
Well, and I'm curious, it sounds like what you have is a real gift, and it's something that when you do connect with people, it creates amazing results. So what is it that people can get out of reading your book that they can then use in their own lives if they don't call you or get in contact with you? Can they create those kinds of results just through reading your book?
You know, everybody is a healer. Let me back up a little bit as I answer that. Everybody is a healer. Our bodies are healing all the time. You have 100 trillion cells in your body.
Whoa.
You have 25 trillion red blood cells. They only live a few months. And so I calculated it out once. Every second we're sitting here, each of us have 2 to 3 million brand new red blood cells produced in our bone marrow. You don't even have to think about it. And so we are healers. The modality of our incredible, magnificent bodies is constant healing until our last breath. Now, being able to train yourself, and you can do that by reading the book, taking classes, doing whatever. There's lots of modalities. But I've had incredible feedback from many, many, many people who've read Cell Level Healing that it has enabled them to be able to work with themselves for healing, to work with their families, and to work with others. And, you know, my website, Cell Level Healing, I do training also that's more personal and hands-on. But the book gives a lot the basics. It gives you how to clear, how to unblock, how to move forward with this. It shows pictures. Thank you, wonderful publisher Beyond Words, for putting many pictures in so you see what cells look like. You see what the targets, if you will, are of the focus of your energy and your concentration when you're doing healing work. So yeah, we've had really good, very gratifying feedback that the book has helped people a lot.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, and just to remind people, again, we do have a bundle available today for the show, Cell Level Healing, that book that Dr. Hawkes just shared so profoundly that can have that kind of impact on your life, as well as Resonance, the CD with 9 meditation practices. And then also, along with these 2 great products, we also have the free audio download of meditation led by Dr. Hawkes. So again, all of that for over 30% off, $29.95, and you can get it at www.beyondword.com/Hawkes, HAWKES. And now I'm curious, Dr. Hawkes, what is the other meditation practice that you had thought to share with us today?
Well, it's the one, I want to talk a little bit about the one that's the free one that people can download, and then I have another one in mind. The one that comes with your package is called Connection and Protection. And I just mentioned that I often take things on directly and consciously and knowingly when I'm working. Early on in my practice, 30 years ago, I did this, that, and the other thing. Mantras, amulets, washing hands, putting things on windowsills in salt. I can't tell you how much I tried to protect myself from taking on other people's illness. And every time I thought I had the answer, the really cool trick, then something would leak through and clobber me. And I had a series of pneumonia events. And I'm going, all right, Joyce, if you're going to be doing this work, you're going to last a few years, you got to figure something else out. I talked to people in the Philippines. I talked to people actually in England. I talked to many interesting masters in Indonesia, in Bali, those 10 years, trying to figure out what is this stuff about protection. And I hear it all the time of clients and students. Many people drawn to healing in whatever profession it is, if it's clinical medicine, psychotherapy, psychiatry, counseling, energy work, massage, acupuncture, whatever, are very sensitive. They're people who are empathic, and they tend to naturally take on other people's pain. And then what do they do with it? And so people come and they ask me often, how can I protect myself? And I usually shock them pretty good, because I say there is no protection. I've never found anything that works as protection. There's no amulet, there's no necklace, there's no hoodie. Hoodie. I thought of that one. But the only protection is connection. And so when you're feeling like you've taken on something, the sense to stop for a moment, take a breath, and connect with, however you name it, the source, God, universe, spirit, whatever it is. But it's that creative aspect of the universe, much larger than ourselves. And you just take a moment to connect. All of that's gone, and you're back to the core of who you are and ready to move again. And so here's another place where, quote, meditation, unquote, becomes really important. However, whatever you name as meditation, that the bottom line is an authentic connection with Source. And that clears us. There are psychotherapists that come to the office for a session because they don't feel well or they feel burdened. And physicians also sometimes. It's like they're just not aware of how much they're actually taking on and absorbing of other people's pain and trouble and concern. And it's not like you discount that from other people, but you can lift it to the light, you can lift it to Source, so that you're not carrying it. It's not required that we carry it when we're helping each other. So the whole meditation thing of connection and protection is realizing that you do have connection. Each one of us does. It's our natural birthright. And that alone is our protection. And to find ways in short bursts of time, or if you have longer time, or take a little retreat, where you're actually letting yourself consciously seek that connection for the reason of clearing yourself and coming back deep to the core essence of who you are.
That's wonderful. And it's, again, the thing that really comes to my mind and has continually come to my mind is, have you seen the movie The Green Mile?
Yeah.
the
Yes.
man who's the healer, in that he does exactly that. It's like he reaches out to people, he heals them, and then he releases it up to source, to the higher power, whatever that is, but he doesn't let it sit with him. And it is we do have a tendency to take on other people's burdens. Somebody tells you something that they're dealing with, and all of a sudden we try to fix it, we try to do something with it. And what I'm really getting from you, it's like you hear what they say, you hear what they're dealing with, and you just pass it up to source, to a higher power, because in the end, each individual person, we have our education, we have our background, whatever that is, but passing it up to source really has it be where that concern or that healing can really be healed.
Mm-hmm. And our role as the person who is the witness to the other, or our empathic role, our heart and compassionate connection, is also important. So it's really a three-step process of that person being with us, of us interacting and hearing it and feeling it, and then lifting it to source. So we're not mechanical in that sense. And some things we hear are harder than others. So that there's many degrees of what it takes to be the receiver of hearing or feeling something from someone, and then releasing that to source. So it has some levels of complexity, but ultimately, bottom line is just what you said. Let's let go of it. It's not our job to keep it. It is our part of our gift to extend compassion.
Yeah. Well, and I want to mention again, for anybody who has a question for Dr. Hawkes, please use the hashtag BWPresents or use the Google Hangouts app, because I'm sure there's lots of people with questions out there. And my particular question is, when you talk about cell level healing, I know that you've done lots of research on this and you've seen brainwaves, but what is it that you really mean when you say cell level healing? What is that?
Thank you. Yes, I mean that the work goes deeply to the place in the body where the body can change. You don't just say, oh, fix my pancreas. That's never worked very well for me. Or, oh, my liver hurts. Fix my liver. Or, gosh, I've got a cancer. Just take the cancer away. But the deepening of moving that focus of healing and energy to the cells and knowing a little bit about them. You don't have to have a whole lot of stuff. You know something about them, like out of the book. Really seems to enhance the effect of the healing. So part of that is, what are the results that we're getting by going deeper and deeper, by touching actually the physical body? And the work has been spectacular. So that's why I say, whoa, let's honor the body, let's work with ourselves, because they are the units of life that do respond to the energy. And if we can be in that really deep place with them, the results seem to be good, the best.
It's just, when you said the number earlier about how many red blood cells we're creating at any 1 second, I can't even wrap my mind around that kind of number. And when you were also saying about how if you have a stressful experience, then it stays with you for 3 days, you can it kind of makes sense, because if you're creating cells within that space of stress, then those cells, as you say, will be affected by that stress, and then that'll stick with you because they're around for a while.
They're around for a while. You know, what we know about the galaxies is there's 100 billion stars in each galaxy. There's 100 trillion cells in your body, order of magnitude higher. You're a whole universe walking around.
So amazing.
Isn't it? It's just, it is truly, it still tickles me every time I think of it. And then I think about sitting there at the electron microscope, looking at them one at a time. Oh, that's what they're like inside. Whoa, look at that. Is that amazing? You know, you've got a little bundle of mitochondria inside of each cell, a bunch of them. They're the only place in your whole body where energy is created. They are the power pack. They are exactly what allows you to be warm, to talk, to move. Everything you do is dependent on what these little teeny tiny things do down inside of each cell called mitochondria. No place else in your body is any energy produced. Your nutrients go through the blood supply to keep the cells alive, but the chocolate doesn't give you energy. It's the mitochondria breaking down the chocolate that does it.
It's so funny because I remember I think it was middle school, they gave us a project where we had to create a model of a cell. And I don't know that I've heard the word mitochondria since then, and I haven't really made that connection, ever probably. So I love that idea of like those little things in my body down there working
for you.
Yeah, every day. And so kind of for me on a more personal, I actually have a friend who was just recently diagnosed with cancer. She has breast cancer. And when I think about what cancer is and the fact that it's that mutation of cells, what is it? And I know we can't say that it would prevent cancer or cure cancer or anything like that, but what is it that I could maybe do for her that would help her in what she's dealing with, and maybe even offer her some healing or practices or something, anything really?
So at a cell level, cancer cells are cells that I call rebel cells. They've lost the ability to regulate how fast they divide. So in these 100 trillion cells in your body, there are 200 different kinds. And each different kind of cell has built into it, in its codes, genetic codes, how fast it should divide. The cells in your gut divide each day. The cells in your brain divide maybe once every 10 years. Cells in your heart are slow dividers again. Cells in your skin divide once a month. So if a breast cell, for example, or a prostate cell, or whatever, loses the ability to regulate how fast it divides, it becomes a cancer cell. And it just keeps dividing, and building a tumor. Now there's a couple things with those cells. They seem to have lost a specific enzyme, which is noted as P53. That's in the book, mentioned in the book under the cancer section. And so one of the ways of working is giving a message to the body and to the cells that are rebellious. They can make more P53. Get on it, buddies. Get that P53 working, because then the cells will regulate back to their normal pace again. Step one. Step two, every cell in the body has the ability to die. It's a process called apoptosis. The journal Science, maybe 3 or 4 months ago, in 2014, ran a whole special issue on new studies of this process called apoptosis. And it's a process, so if a cell gets worn out or aged or some toxin hits it, it can simply die, and then other cells of the body come in and eat it, essentially, and recycle all of the atoms and molecules. We are an incredible recycling system. But cancer cells do not do this apoptosis thing. And so it's another mechanism we can kind of focus on with the energy work. Do this natural process. You're not helping the whole body, so give it up. Now, if all else fails, when I'm working with somebody with cancer, my mother bear comes out, and I get shamanic, and I go, I'm extracting the life out of you. You are not going to be here. So, I mean, we got a variety of things. So that's kind of the cell-focused stuff. The other piece, I work with people with cancer during treatment in several ways. If somebody has surgery, you can send them the energy of recovery from surgery, and almost to a person, people say, my doctor said I recovered so much faster than I thought I would.
Wow.
The second part is you can think of them and imagine, and again, sort of a shamanic thing without a lot of whistles and bells of extracting the pain. I've worked with people right after surgery for cancer in particular and pulled the pain out. They didn't need any pain meds.
Wow.
And then the next step is when people are taking medication, that they stop, put it in their hands, and bless it and welcome it to their body. And what you say is, I welcome you to do your highest good with the fewest side effects possible. And often people don't lose their hair, they don't get sick, and the medication works fabulously. So that works for cancer, it works for the IV drip of chemotherapy, it works during radiation. You know, people are so frightened, they get rolled in there under this huge bit of machinery, and it's a place where you just want to resist everything. I don't want to be here. And instead, if you can relax, take a few of those meditative breaths and say, I welcome this as a healing tool to my body, and I ask my body not to see any side effects, and people do much better with it. So there's a series of things that might be able to help your friend.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. I haven't seen her since her diagnosis, so I will definitely share that with her. Thank you. Well, and I just looked at the clock, and we only have 8 minutes left, and I would love to have you lead us through that second meditation that you had been thinking about. So,
Okay.
Is that enough time?
You bet it is.
Okay, great.
Okay, so once again, just get comfortable, kind of wiggle around a bit, any tension out, wherever you are. I invite you to think about connecting with your source. In Bali, they would say, connect with the God of your heart. Whatever touches you as the closest to the creator, the source of the universe. Invite that source to touch you. And now I encourage you as you breathe to imagine you can breathe in the quality of balance. And you're breathing it in, let it flow to all the cells of your body. Let it transform anything out of balance instantaneously. Maybe that's a cancer cell. And then with the out breath, breathe harmony to your body. So breathing in, nice deep breath, embracing balance. Hold the breath for a moment. Let anything out of balance transform. Breathing out harmony to your body. I'll be quiet for a few minutes and let you do maybe 4 rounds of that. In, balance, transform, harmony. Now imagine this for your loved ones, perhaps your spouse. Surrounding this person with a very sweet blessing and sending balance, transformation, harmony. Expand that to your city where you live. Expand that to the whole globe, to our world for just a moment. And then coming back to yourself. Once again, just you yourself. Embracing the quality of balance. Allowing transformation. Breathing out quality of harmony to every cell in your body. Okay, now you get to leap up and say, I'm healed, I'm healed.
Yay! Now I just feel my whole body tingling like all over. It's amazing.
Are you the person who said, I can't meditate? Did you say that earlier?
Yes. Well, as I said before, we are very close to the end of our time with you, Dr. Hawkes, and thank you so much for both of the exercises and for all of your insights and for telling your story, because it really is quite profound, and it's been such a privilege to have you on this show, so thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been a pure pleasure to be here with you.
Thank you. And so just one last time so everybody knows, you can go to www.beyondword.com/Hawkes, HAWKES, to get both her book, Cell Level Healing, and then also this CD, Resonance, as well as the free download meditation. And you can get that for over 30% off at $29.95. Be sure to do that as quickly as you can so you can get this wonderful tingly feeling for yourself as well. And next week we will be back, same time, same place, with Suzanne Jacques. She's actually a psychic or intuitive who is going to be working not only with me but also with some other people in the Beyond Words office. And please send in your questions, comments, anything that's going on for you so that we can have her address those as well. And she will be in studio with us. So we will see you next week, same time, same place. Thank you so much. Have a great week.